We have come to the training of site architecture. So, site architecture is the foundation of SEO because how the site structure is structured will affect the indexability as well as like the how Googlebot would be able to efficiently crawl and index the site. So information architecture is very much like a web development term. So its terminology is actually to create a structure of the website, application, or other project to actually see where we are as a user in terms of user experience and how we can navigate around a website or application to find the information that we want and go through the user journey. So a lot of things that actually we do as a SEO also affect part of the information architecture as well. So for example, right, when a content strategist actually create a content pillars, break into other categories, also he or she is also like practicing information architecture. Then also when the SEO strategies allocate keywords to existing page or decide to actually create a new landing page, right? This is also part of the information architecture as well. So at the very start of the information architecture, right, we have to really go through a few like question in our mind. So what is your business goal? What is your like business pain point you're trying to solve? And then also like see how your similar like websites actually structure the website. And lastly, who are your target audience? So this is more of like the business side of things in terms of how the information architecture should be designed in a way. Then the second part is on user-centric questions. So what are people looking for? What's important to users? How do pages actually relate to each other? And then how does this website actually present back to the user as well in driving them to some call to action or decision to make? So in SEO, right, we will be talking about how Google actually crawl the different websites and the by the sitemap, by the robot.txt, and then through the homepage first, and also hitting other category and subcategory. So site architecture is pretty much like to different pages of the website, and then to see how they link to each other. So in doing that, right, you will actually help in us firstly to actually better categorize different pages of the website, and secondly to actually improve on the internal linking. So that being said, right, site architecture and internal linking in the way works hand in hand, because pretty much in the eyes of SEO, right, how the categorization actually is split is actually part of how the internal linking of the pages are actually connected by themselves. So first of the best practice will fall into 6 different factors: the crawlability of the site, the URL structure, the internal linking, the keyword like content and forming like the different key content pillars, and understanding how like duplicate content is a no-no of course in SEO, but how do you like ensure that like in the design of the site architecture it doesn't cause cannibalization and duplicate content issue. Lastly will be in terms of user flow and experience, because user experience is not just about the website architecture, but also one of the SEO ranking factor as well. So the way you structure your website will actually give Google a lot of clues in terms of like how to find valuable content in the website. So be it you have a small or a big website, it's quite important to have in the way I understand the SEO best practice for site architecture. So there's this terminology called the flat architecture. It means to say that like it will take a very, very minimal number of clicks to actually get to any pages in the website. So that will be defined as the 3-click rule. But of course, in reality, right, it's not really possible to have like so much content and then to have in the way split it in a way that you can only take like 3 clicks to reach a certain amount of website. So it's more of a rule of thumb to be 3 to 4 or around that range for any web page to be reached in the website, be it the different sizes. So why is this important is because like for example, you might have seen people how they actually structure their own like photos or like files in folders, right? So if I were to store a very important file in a way, you have to go into A, then you have to go into B, and then you can go to C, then you will find that it's very hard to find a file every single time you go into like your folders as well. So the same goes for a website. So imagine you as a user actually takes like 6 to 7 clicks to find a content in the website, a page in the website, then it's a very bad for user experience. That's one. And then Googlebot will also behave like a user where it will crawl the site beginning from the home page first, following by category, subcategory, and eventually the end of the page where it hits like the dead end. That's the last content that you want Google to actually reach. So that being said, flat architecture is one of the best practice in terms of site architecture. So understanding the depth of the key pages also make it easier like for search engine and user to find the content. So using like a breadcrumb and internal linking also help to ensure that the pages are not buried deep in the website. So later we will share more of like what is the breadcrumb as well. Then we will also share later what is orphan page. Okay, so developing your site structure is key to like the success of the website in terms of like setting the basic SEO foundation. So pillar pages, right? They are actually like the top level content page that will cover broader topic at the wider spectrum. Yeah, so these are like in-depth pages that answer certain like specific question about broader topics. Okay, so there's also a terminology called the silo architecture also. So sometimes like there might be like a SEO person or someone who actually asks, okay, so how do we set up like a silo architecture for my website? Is it like the best sort of like structure? So the answer is right. There are a lot of like good like ways that this actually works. So on the right, we can actually see how a silo structure actually looks like, where there's a page. Of course, on top of it is a home page. Then you come to a page. Then after that is a post. Then after that is a subcategory and the post by itself. So this actually is good in a way because there's a very good flow of internal linking from the bottom to the top and back to the bottom again. And then it's very much like contextual as well. So imagine this would be like, for example, if it's say like a plumbing site, right? Then one of like the cluster may be like a choke, toilet bowl, and the other one may be like a basin, and also you will actually flow down into like in the way semantically relevant type of like a topic, and so everything will be in the way topical and structured in that way for Google to better crawl its content and all. So of course, it's also a very good user experience as well, because makes it very easy for me to find the content, and so it is for Googlebot as well. Okay, so over here we see here that like the understanding the crawl depth, right? Sometimes like there's a few ways that we can do it by looking at the sitemap. We can actually visually see how through the menu navigation and all how the website is being structured for any websites and all when you actually do your analysis of how other websites are designed. But of course, there are also tools that can do that, like a Screaming Frog and Sidebar, that you can actually see like a visualization of how websites internal linking it's actually and link structure is being formed. So what is shown in the screenshot here is how Shop Disney. You can see here that like because they are designed in a way that is the e-commerce website, right? So from the home page, it actually branches out to be like a main category page, then a subcategory page, and then followed by all the different like Toy Story, Marvel, and other different like categories, then following by the product as we branch out. Yeah, so these are some of like the tools that can actually be able to see like the bird's eye view of how the site internal linking structure and the site architecture looks like. So site structure is important for user experience because it has a direct impact on the usability and also make it easier to navigate, as explained earlier. So in the ideal world, your structure will sit in like a cluster within the same directory as the same pillar. So for example, like if your pillar page is say like your domain.com/pillar, it means all your content pillar will actually fall under this like pillar/cluster page one. So this is one of like the best practice when it comes to like site architecture, where the parameter URL would be important in terms of consideration. So one of like the best practice is that we use a very short descriptive keywords in the parameter URL, and then so we try to avoid like this kind of like absolute URL in the third example where it's like question mark page equals to 123, because these are not readable, and then it in a way doesn't allow Googlebot to better crawl and understand the content of the URL structure as well. Then the last one would be more of like defining it by category, then subcategory, then followed by the product listing in this case. So that's the second best practice. So yeah, so I think this further explains that. So that we don't want like what we call the parameter URL to be the URL structure within the website, because this type of URL shouldn't even be crawlable by Googlebot as well. It should be de-indexed in the first place. Then it's quite important to actually use this type of like user-friendly URLs. Then so while subdirectory are useful from the UX standpoint, right? So they are not really like a showstopper when it comes to defining the SEO performance. That means it's not really a show-stopping type of like factor if we were to break in by like a category by subcategory, then by product listing. But more importantly is how the internal linking actually works for all these like URLs. Okay, so the next one is a navigational menu, because this actually helps users to actually find the pages that we want, and also of course to Googlebot as well, as like the navigation menus are in a way a big source of like internal linking stuff. So for cannibalization, right? So there will be a section on cannibalization when we come to the technical SEO training in the next week to come. But I think what we want to know is that duplicate content is actually pretty much it's content that's like similar or exact copy of content on other websites or on other pages of the similar site. So of course, like plagiarism is never good for SEO, because Google appreciate original content. So within the URL structure, right, within the website itself, there shouldn't also be like duplicate content that give Google the signal that one page and the other page in your website offers the same content. Then Google don't know which one to rank and which one is the one that give like the user is going into in the first place. So at the moment, one of the best practice in terms of designing site architecture is to ensure that content doesn't duplicate each other. So the next one will come to topic and keyword research. So then again, there will also be a session next on keyword research as well. So we will just keep it as it is, that when you plan out the structure, right, you also need to know what type of like topics to target and the primary keywords within the page also, be it a category page or be it like the key service pages or whatever page kind. So when it comes to like grouping content, right, so we need to know how like keywords are actually being grouped like topically, and then like how the site structure is actually important to actually showcase like different pages and how they are connected. So the way we actually group relevant content also like give Google signal of like the topical relevance and authority as well, and also to position like the webmaster and the website as the expert in your field as well. So it's part of like the content strategy as well, in terms of like being able to group the content pillar and also to in a way display this type of like pillar pages, position them as the pages to actually rank for as well. Yeah. So if Google cannot crawl your website, right, so it will have a very big problem to even index it in the first place. Okay, so when it comes to competitor analysis, right? So a simple way to do it is that if you are selling, say like a perfume, for example, then you might also like just like do a random Google or a random keyword research to see how does this like top competitor actually structure their website. So for example, in Singapore, like if you are actually selling perfume, then you might want to look at how Shop Changi, Sephora, fragrance, and also like tanks, right? They actually structure the different category that they have. So perfume, maybe they actually structure it based on like male, female, or simply by brands, Chanel or other like brands, or it may be even by different type of like scent as well, be it like musky or something like that. Okay, so internal linking is a link that link from one page to another. So both users and search engine use links to actually find information and navigational pages within the website. Okay, so now we have come to understand what is site links. So site links is actually commonly appearing in Google search result page, mostly for brand terms. So what we see here is like if you Google like a query, a brand query, M1, so you realize that the search result differs quite a bit, where there's different site links as well. So these are additional links that appear below the main URL for a particular domain of the search. So it actually serves to help user better navigate your website by featuring different areas of the website that might interest them. So of course, there's also different ways that site links can appear as well, not just brand search lah. So for example, if I Google here like alcohol delivery, you'll find that these two listings actually differ. Then Panico doesn't really have, it's a normal listing as per normal, where there's a page title, a URL, as well as the meta description. But then Celebration, they actually have like these links as well, where you can directly go to the beer page or the bistro and bottle shops. So site links actually give more visibility in the search result and help user to get to the content they want faster. So I think the next important question is that why did it appear, and then how to make them appear. So in terms of like the official Google resource, right? The best practice is to make sure that the text in your page title and your headers is correct, and it's relevant, and is informative as well. And then to create like a site structure that is easy for users to navigate, and make sure that you link to all the correct pages from other relevant pages. Thirdly is to make sure that internal linking anchor text is concise and relevant to the page that they are pointing to. Lastly is to avoid repetition. So most of these are what we have went through in terms of like making sure the site architecture is well organized, and so on and so forth. But there are also other possible ways that like site links can be influenced by. So from our experience, we will find that site structure actually influence a lot in terms of like the menu link and the navigational link and so on, to actually like display like how all these site links and what are the type of site links that appear. Then internal linking as well. And also I think the point is more of like additional note lah. If you don't want like the site link to be appearing in Google search result page or what, then you might want to even no index the page to actually remove them from showing. Then lastly is by the usefulness and the relevance as well. So one of it might be the headers, it might be the table content, or it might also possibly be like what people popularly search, and also what users popularly click through when they reach your site as well. So all these are the major, like in a way, influencing factor for site links. So we cannot like somehow like change them as and when as we want, because it's determined by Google what type of site links actually appear. Okay. So what I'm showing here is actually a visual sitemap tool to actually create visual sitemap for like for your website. So this will allow you to actually better plan your like site link structure as well as site architecture.